Hello and welcome to Foreign Correspondent. I'm Mark Corcoran. Tonight from China, Crimea River.
It's either an enormous mistake or an engineering marvel that'll power China into the 21st century.
And Red China Blues.
It's the opposite of our media, right? We only tell people bad news, and there they only tell people good news.
Well, it's been a dream for 50 years, and finally it's almost complete. China's massive hydroelectric project, the Three Gorges Dam. And authorities must be breathing a sigh of relief that last week's major earthquake apparently didn't damage the dam wall, which is 700 kilometres from the quake's epicentre. Over the years, one of the many criticisms that's been made of the project is that its sheer size could make an unstable area even worse. It's a dilemma for those running China, as the country is desperately hungry for energy. After hearing so much for so long about the Three Gorges construction, tonight we finally get to see it. Prior to last week's quake, China correspondent Stephen McDonnell journeyed down the Yangtze River.
Three Gorges Dam is the biggest in the world. It's also the largest hydroelectric project ever built. As well as generating massive amounts of electricity, it symbolises China's growing power as a country that can tame the elements like no other. It's changed forever the Yangtze River, which divides China's north from its south. A river that at its most spectacular cuts through three gorges in a row. 400 million people live in the Yangtze Basin, a third of China's population. And as the dam nears completion, there's growing unease.
三峡工程可能会毁掉长江，我要把造起了堤坝，所以呢是人类的活动，把一条上苍最好的礼物、最聪明的安排，变成了一条有灾害的江。
Chongqing is the largest city in Western China. It's seen as the great hope for opening the country's vast inland to economic development. "30 million people live in the greater city area. Many moved here after their villages were flooded as part of the Three Gorges development. We've come to Chongqing to start our journey to the Three Gorges. Even here, over 600 kilometres away, its impact is felt in so many ways. So we're hoping as we travel down the Yangtze to see firsthand what effect the dam has been having recently. First we go to see Professor Lei Hongshun. He was a member of China's normally compliant parliament when 16 years ago a quarter of its delegates abstained or voted against the new dam.
1992年在全国人大审议三峡工程的时候，我并没有投赞成票，我并不赞成当时就上马三峡工程。
The 82-year-old geologist from Chongqing University has made the dam his life's work.
我担心的呢，主要是两个方面，一个呢，就是这100万移民呢，怎么能够把它安置的妥帖？第二一个呢，就是生态环境问题。生态环境问题中间呢，我们最初担心的呢，主要是水质的问题。
更况且这个整个流速慢了，冲不下去了啊，水质我认为是降低了。
Writer and agitator Dai Qing has been the most vocal critic of the Three Gorges project. Her family history has given her a degree of protection to speak out. In the 1950s, her father-in-law built an important dam outside Beijing. Former Chinese leader Mao Zedong even came to visit.
Just having a break is like what we would call this smoko in Australia. Just means having a break, have a cup of tea, and is that what's happening?
And Mao Zedong smoke.
Mao Zedong's having a smoke. Yeah.
5 decades later, she says the environmental destruction caused by the greatest dam of them all is hardly mentioned.
我觉得这是中国人了解三峡工程的渠道是很有限的。因为在中国的媒体上，就绝对不许说三峡工程的问题。那么，特别是 TV、radio 这些报纸不可以说。
For hundreds of years, the river has been used to carry cargo from the inland to the port of Shanghai and back. Also for moving a great many people. The local porters are renowned for their ability to carry huge amounts of luggage up and down these steep hills. They take on a TV crew's gear without even blinking.
The Three Gorges is an iconic place for Chinese people. You only have to go as far as the Tianyuan note to see that. On the one side, we've got Chairman Mao, the former leader of the country. And on the other, the Three Gorges. And here we are.
The beauty of the Three Gorges comes from the dramatic size of their cliffs. As the water's gone up, they're not as striking as they were, and the river still has 10 metres to rise. Some say this is a small price to pay for a dam which can control disastrous flooding and could soon power 1/3 of the households in China. For Chinese scientists, this is a genuine dilemma.
像中国这样的国家，看到没有？人口如此之多，它需要消耗的能量如此之大。中央也知道啊，地方政府也知道啊，老百姓也知道，科学家也知道啊，对不对？就是把一条这一个几千公里长的这样的一条河流，它是有生命的啊，你把它切断，是吧？就像一个人一样，对不对？你把它伤害了，它不行的呀，它从头到脚，他说应该是畅通的呀，对不对？可是，在这样的情况之下怎么办？所以这是一个不得已而为之。
As we move through the gorges, the ruins of what were once vibrant communities are dotted along the steep riverbanks. Yet for those who remain here on higher ground, this is not just a question of lost beauty.
最大的损害就是将来三峡工程可能会出现，比如说可能会出现最严重的问题，就是地质灾害。那么经过这个水从135米升到156米，再升到175米，这个水来浸泡这个两岸的时候，那么这个灾害就更严重了，就是发生的就更频繁了。
When you travel on the Yangtze, you can't miss the landslides which have collapsed into the river, and the huge walls being built to try and contain them. While the water level is slowly rising, it's also fluctuating. as the water is released and then held back downriver to control seasonal flooding.
但是它今后一定会出现我们现在还没有遇到的某一些地质灾害，为什么呢？因为我们现在还从来没有过一会儿把水位提高30米，一下又把水位降低30米，明年又提高又降低，又提高又降低。道理很简单，拿一根铁丝，我们拿来这样一根铁丝，就这样子了，弯它的时候很困难。但是如果说弯过来了，把它扳直，弯过来了又扳直，这样子往复的扳，这个铁丝就会断。
This is an area already prone to geological instability. But the villagers we met said the rising river level has increased the number and ferocity of landslides.
从这个水蓄水以后，我们这些都影响这些满大的房屋啊，都有那里的泄洪。从有时候它就是那个地壳啊，就是好像听到那个晃炮的声音一样，就叮咚一下。
Su Yu showed us the major structural damage done to his house.
这是什么时候做的？
是去年5月份。
是吗
？5月份。
He's adamant that these cracks were caused by the rising waters of the Three Gorges Dam. In this unusually cold winter, the holes in the wall make it very hard to keep warm. But they believe there could be worse to come.
害怕就是怕那个屋塌下来的，哎。
有多害怕？
也蛮害怕，啊。
那都是睡的，那都是那个噻。如果它要塌下来了，那都是晚上睡了要塌下来了，都没办法，那都是顶到塌呀的，是不是？
这个家吗？这。
Su took us to see his mother's house, to show us that theirs is not an isolated example.
这是这个吗？
对，这都是。从去年的蓄水以后呢，它都慢下往下垮，它都地壳一震动，它就往下掉。
你的妈妈担心吗？
妈妈肯定担心嘛，她那15的一个老年人，她15的肯定这个呀。 蛮担心嘛，那如果一下塌下来了，半个人找不到是，这是蛮大的那个担心噻。
这个听话，我是说他们，我说你们这。
These villagers say they can't afford to fix their houses. They want the government to either pay for their repair work or move them. They'll have to join the waiting list though, because others are more desperate, with their houses sliding down the hill. And we came across some pretty stark evidence that the situation is indeed becoming serious.
These enormous pylons were sunk into the ground to try and stop landslides. As you can see, they haven't worked. As the water level has come up, the land around here has become increasingly unstable, and now they look like they're about to fall over themselves.
We're almost at the Three Gorges Dam, and the snow is getting heavier. We get a glimpse of our destination off in the distance. As the winter night draws in, on the hills around the dam, you can see what this project is all about. Electricity going out in all directions, and lots of it.
现在工程所发的电量，如果是折算成燃煤来发电的话呢，相当于5000万吨原煤燃烧所发出的电能，那么相应的减少差不多1亿吨这个二氧化碳的排放。
Before we're allowed anywhere near the dam, we meet Project Vice President Zhao Guangjing. He refuses to answer any questions on its direct environmental impact. He says he's just an engineer.
它有个检验啊，中国人能够做这么一个大的工程的话呢，也表明你的技术水平啊，你的组织管理水平啊，你的 这个实力，国家的实力啊，确确实实已经具备了相当的水平，你才能够建这么一个大的工程。
When we finally arrive there, the dam is a sight to behold. Inside this concrete monolith, there are dozens of turbines capturing the power of the Yangtze and turning it into electricity. The cargo ship locks are already working. If you spend a little time watching them open and close, you can see how busy the shipping traffic has become. One of the reasons for the dam was to create a deeper river to carry larger ships. The finished structure will also have an enormous passenger ship elevator, big enough to lift whole vessels up the wall of the dam. And after 17 years, it's finally nearly completed.
Well, this is it, the mighty Three Gorges Dam. It's either an enormous mistake or an engineering marvel that'll power China into the 21st century. It's definitely big and produces a lot of electricity, but the question for China is, was building the dam really worthwhile?
When we're invited inside the dam to speak to shift engineer Li Tianzhi, he certainly thinks so. He couldn't believe his luck when he got a job here.
并且它对于中国人民来讲，就是很重要的一个工程。就是说，作为我一个新时代的一个大学生来讲，就是说能够在这个地方工作，还是感觉到非常的自豪。
Li told us that the power generated by these turbines actually fluctuates quite a bit according to the seasons. In the winter, less electricity is produced, but with the summer rains and the flooding river comes an electricity bonanza. This electricity comes without the pollution of coal-fired power. Even one of the dam's staunchest critics has become something of a convert.
我认为到目前为止，看到没有？ 做一个利大于弊的这样一个结论是站得住脚的，但是今后很长很长的时间，还有很多问题必须引起高度的关注，要不断地去研究解决。
But for others, the problem runs deeper, because in China, the financial benefits of mega engineering projects still outweigh environmental and social concerns every time.
因为呢，现在中国有一句话叫做“银桥金路钻石坝”，那么你得到了这个合同，造桥就是意味着你得到了银子，你得到了合同修路就意味着你得到了金子。如果你要是造了坝， 那么这样的合同，你就得到了钻石，这个诱惑太大了。
China plans to dam many more of its rivers. It's also building dams overseas for developing countries envious of China's startling economic growth. But the Three Gorges project has shown that if you want the benefits of hydropower, you'd better prepare for the costs.
Stephen McDonald there. And they certainly don't do anything by halves in China. And that's something tonight's next guest knows all about. Third-generation Chinese-Canadian Jan Wong went to China in the early 1970s as a fervent young Maoist student. It was the height of the country's Cultural Revolution, and she was a true believer. Jan Wong later wrote a best-selling memoir about that period, Red China Blues, a book that's still banned there. In the 80s, she returned to a very different China as a foreign correspondent. Jan Wong's latest book is called Beijing Confidential, and she's in Australia as a guest of the Sydney Writers' Festival. Well, Jan Wong, Welcome to Foreign Correspondent. The Chinese authorities make a great deal about their openness, that foreign journalists now have unprecedented access. What's your take on that? Is there really a new approach to the foreign media and openness?
Actually, I think there is. It's very different from the way it was even 10 years ago, where we needed permission to travel anywhere. I think now the only restriction remaining in China is Tibet. You can't go to Tibet freely if you're a journalist, but you can go to the earthquake site. I think they want the press there, at least for now. It's going to probably turn very ugly in a few days when they're going to just be, there won't be any more rescues. It'll just be finding the dead bodies.
But just on that point, we're starting to see, perhaps in the last 24, 48 hours, reports that dodgy or shoddy building practices may have in fact contributed to the death toll, and we may see a shutting down of this press access.
I think we may see it because it's going to get so bad, people may start rioting and demonstrating against the government. That's when I think they'll go, maybe we shouldn't have so many journalists here.
But this all is such a long way from 1976, when China experienced one of the worst earthquakes of the 20th century.
Yes.
Indeed, probably the highest death toll,
yes,
depending on who you believe, anywhere between 250,000 and 750,000 people were killed.
Yes.
And they maintained that virtually as a state secret.
It was complete state secret, and Chairman Mao at that time said, no foreign aid. China's self-sufficient, we don't need any help. So it's a complete contrast with today, where immediately they announce it.
And what was the logic behind that, in maintaining this as a state secret?
Well, the logic is Communist Party logic, which is only good news. We only tell the people good news. We don't tell the people about these disasters. So it's the opposite of our media, right? We only tell people bad news, and there they only tell people good news.
You write about what you call cultural amnesia of contemporary China. What do you mean by that?
I mean that people don't want to remember some of the things from the past, some of the bad things. They deliberately just gloss over it and move on. So when I talk about cultural amnesia, I mean what each person did during the Cultural Revolution. That if they were a victimizer, they don't want to talk about how they beat people up or cause people terrible hardship. And if they were a victim, they don't want to talk about what they went through either, because it's so difficult for them.
Well, another historical landmark is coming up in a couple of months. Beijing will host the Olympics. Do you think in becoming the host city that the Olympic movement has had an influence on Chinese politics, on the Communist Party?
I think it's good that they have them. I think it's only good to shine a light on China and to have foreigners going in and Chinese coming out. Now, the IOC has never been a bastion of democracy and freedom itself. It's a very conservative organization run by a very small number of men, white men. That's the way it's been for years. And so they're not interested in promoting democracy around the world. That's not what they do. They're interested in promoting, the IOC and getting lots of television revenue for the International Olympic Committee. So the criticism of China right now, that it's not democratic enough to hold the Olympics, is just a phony criticism, because it's never been a criteria to have a perfectly democratic place hold the Olympics.
Does this become a propaganda platform for the Chinese government?
Absolutely. And I think, the torch relay was so interesting, because you couldn't make this up. You couldn't make up the people in London chasing after the torch with fire extinguishers, and then in Paris, wrenching it away from this woman in a wheelchair. You can't make that stuff up. The interesting thing is that they've been coming out against foreigners because of the criticism of Tibet. But they're going to ratchet that all the way down now, because in a few months, the foreigners will be arriving for the Games, and they can't have hostile people, right, receiving these foreigners. They've got to change it again, and now we love Westerners, and we're going to be happy they're here. So the government has to be very careful what it does when it whips up this nationalism.
Just turning to your book, the key theme of Beijing Confidential is your search for a young woman named Yin, a fellow student who you denounced, you betrayed.
Yes, because I was an idealistic young Maoist. I called myself I call myself now a Montreal Maoist because I'm putting myself down. I really didn't understand Maoism, but I thought I did. What happened in my first year at Beijing University, a young woman, a stranger, came up to me and asked me to help her go to the U.S. And I was shocked. Nobody wanted to leave, I thought. No, certainly nobody had voiced that feeling to me. And so I told my teacher, I thought that they ought to know that there's this person who wants to leave. She could use a little ideological work. That's what I thought. I thought that she would be helped. But she wasn't, of course.
What happened to her?
She was denounced by her whole department. She was a history student, and she was expelled. So when I decided to write Beijing Confidential, it was supposed to be a book about the city of Beijing on the eve of the Olympics. And it is about that. But I thought I should go back and see if I can find Yin. I wanted to apologize and tell her that I was sorry about what happened. And
Did she accept your apology?
She did.
Just briefly, what fate had befallen her?
She had been sent for hard labor into northeast China for years. Luckily, Chairman Mao died 3 years later after this happened, and she was able to get a job in an oil field, which was a step up from working in the countryside. And then from there, she managed to get back into university.
And now, do you feel any remorse?
Yes. Oh, I definitely feel real remorse. I realized from this research that I wasn't the only one who caused her problems, but I might have been the catalyst. I might have been the first person to alert the authorities to her. And then they started watching her, reading her diaries, questioning people. So if I hadn't done it, she might not have gotten into trouble. You know, I'm always questioning myself, too. And I'm always seeing, where am I a hypocrite? Like, I used to be such a Maoist, and now I really like to buy things. I like to shop. I like to have nice things. So I'm aware of it. At least I'm aware of the contradiction and the irony. With Yin, I mean, she has everything now. She has a new husband. She was back at Beijing University at the place that destroyed her life. She's living there in this amazing Western-style house, but that's not her only house. She has a condo. She has a pied-à-terre in the center of the city, and they have a villa, you know, in the countryside, and they have his and her cars. And I think this is the woman who wanted to go to the U.S., and I told on her, and she suffered. But now she has everything because the West has come to her.
Jen Wong, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's all for tonight, but don't forget to visit our website, where you can leave your comments in our guest book and check out many of our stories on broadband. Here's a preview of next week's program, a dramatic story of survival. Until then, good night. Australian video journalist Stephen DuPont in Afghanistan.
There's been a suicide bombing here. We were about to go on a mission to eradicate the poppy fields, and this is what's happened. As you can see, it's chaotic, and I'm not even sure how badly wounded I am, except I know I'm talking and I'm on camera, and but I definitely need to get checked up as well.
My reaction was to go in and take pictures, and then I hesitated, thinking, well, what if there's a second explosion?
My partner, my colleague, Paul Raphael, I've lost.
And then I thought of Paul. I thought, my God, I just realized that he wasn't with me. You know, I just thought, where the hell is Paul?
Jesus Christ, I'm so lucky. I feel really lucky. I just feel so lucky.
Jesus.